Round 11 is in the books. Round 12 is coming up. We are heading into the bye season, state of origin season, time of the year where things get crazy. Rob, mate, are you excited or are you terrified right now?
I'm pumped for the buy rounds because that's where the boys are sorted from the men. So it's I'm very excited for that period.
When the boys are sorted from the men, I love that. That's a veteran there. That's a guy who came third last year who made some good moves to that period. So yeah, mate, I'm going to listen to you on this because you've got that recent form history. But before we get into buy, hold, sell for this round, just a shout out to our sponsors for this episode. And how fun is it having sponsors on the show? It still trips me out sometimes. We got the SRL though, so we got a bit of footage on the right there. SRL Simulation Rugby League, awesome league where you create your own player and they're entered into a simulation competition. We've got TBC as well on the left there too. So link in the description here. Brand new predictions game. We'll go into that about halfway through this video, but TBC Live is their name. Let's get right into it now. So I'm going to move us around a little bit so we're not covering everything. The buys here first. Max King's the first one up. Look, obviously the Bulldogs have an amazing buy schedule. Check out our buy video as well if you want to see a bit more of that. Max King, 659K. Rob, are you hot or is this a not?
Normally, over here would be a warm, but because of the lack of great mids at the moment, he's hot. 'Cause like you said, his buy schedule is amazing. He's very consistent. His minutes seem to be quite consistent week on week. Had a great score last week, and he's not overly expensive. So he just ticks a lot of boxes. So he's hot.
He's hot. I just remembered our game that we played a few times ago when we recorded. It was hot
Yep.
or not, and you kept throwing in like lukewarm, like mild, like
Yep.
tea that was left out for 5 minutes, like all these weird adjectives that describe the
I've got
heat of
plenty more
liquid.
for
But I agree with you, man. He is red hot. So the risk to him, I mean, there's two risks, right? One risk is the injuries. So he's had a few seasons now where he's picked up an injury and sort of that niggle has kept him out from playing those big minutes. And the second thing is minutes. So I look at this and I go, all right, Jacob Preston, surely at some point he gets back into that dominant edge role. That means that we see Jamin Salmon move back to the middle. We see obviously Josh Curran. He has games where he plays 60 minutes as well. I just think there's risk that there's going to be games where Max King doesn't get those big minutes. But overall, I think 659K, we're probably going to get a pretty safe 50 average out of him. And for that buy schedule, it's hard to say no, especially with the options that we have at the spot.
And if you got Jamin Jolliffe like I do, unfortunately, you get Max King with a little bit of change as well. So Jolliffe is 666 at the moment. So you get 7K change over that. So straight swap.
What's the, I guess, longest amount of time that Jolliffe could be out where you'd hold on to him?
It's got to be 3 weeks or less if I want to hold on to him.
Three or less. Yeah, you cop that 13, 14 duel. That's pretty tough.
Yeah, exactly. So
Mm.
if it's two, I might even think about punting him. It's just at this time of the year, I don't want to fall behind, and Max King seems a pretty good solution at this stage.
Good shout, man. Good shout. I'll throw the next one in here because I know you're not super, super hard on him. Obviously, this price is a bit better, but Scotty Drinkwater. And the appeal, I haven't got non Drinkwater yet, but the appeal at him over the last few weeks has been I'm looking at the fixtures and just thinking, surely he's going to feast this week. Now, we go into this game, the Tigers' backline.
Mm.
It is hard to look at. It's hard to look at. There's a few very young names in that back line. Like surely Scotty Drinkwater, guys like Val Holmes, all these boys just absolutely tear up this week. And he cranks out what a 75-point game. Am I overreacting here, or is that a realistic possibility?
It's absolutely realistic. Last year we saw he had that pedigree. Remember when he was about 550K and he went up to
Mm.
800 something? He can absolutely do it. And at this price point, it's okay. 644 is okay. When he was about a couple of weeks, 700, I really didn't like him, but now he's dropped down a little bit. I think it's decent value and a decent shout now.
60K discount. I'm with you there. You don't have to ride the break evens either, right? So he's got a decent break even this week, but you have to wait on that stuff, right? If you've got a good fixture, you like the score this week, go make that move. Reed Money, bit of a different one. Very, very solid, sort of averaging around that 50 tackles a game, which there aren't many other hookers that are doing that right now. Again, buy schedule's good. Do you think this guy's a no-brainer, or what are your thoughts here?
It's funny, like this year with the hookers, it's just crazy, isn't it? That Reed Marnie is one of the top hookers, if not the best one, best option at the moment. And I can't
Insane.
just can't I can't bring myself to do it. I just can't do it. I don't know why. It just sticks in my brain when I owned him previously, and he just missed 20 tackles and he'd do this and that, and it was just horrific. But this year's been very consistent, and I absolutely do not begrudge anyone that would get him because he's been very consistent this year. And like you said, buy schedule is excellent, but I'm probably going to look elsewhere. I just can't do it to myself.
See, I look at him and go, like, I've been trying to figure out the method of the madness with Reed Marnie to no success whatsoever. So you look at his numbers, and when he was at Parramatta, he was averaging about 2 missed tackles a game. He moved to the Dogs, it went up to about 5.7, right?
Yeah.
Which I thought, okay, so that's probably a symptom of the fact the Dogs don't have the strongest middle forwards, right? Especially last year. And he's being isolated a bit more. It's a tough spot to defend if you're a small guy, especially if you're getting left on islands. So I looked at this year and I thought, you know what, those middles haven't really improved. He'll struggle. And his missed tackles have only gone down to about 4 a game. So that actually doesn't explain his uplift. It's more that he's got, I think it's about 5 or 6 try assists this year. His tackle volume has gone up as well. He's kicking the ball a little bit too, not really running the ball as much, but he's just operating very efficiently right now. So would I buy him? The big downside for him is if you already have Jaden Brayley or even maybe a Reece Robson, for example, if you buy him, then you can only play one hooker in round 13. You don't get to use your bench in round 13. So you got Reed Marnie there, you got Jaden Brayley there. Too bad. One of them's going to sit on the reserves. They're not dual position guys. Keep that in mind. If you're just maybe a Harry Grant owner, for example, you can make that move. But otherwise, I think that round 13 quality buy is wasted with him. I'll go to Joey Tarpanay here as well. Look, 675K. The name is really good. The player is really good. The minutes situation, it's not great. And the thing with Canberra in previous years, and the reason why that old wisdom has been have a look at Tarpanay through the origin period, has been because Josh Papali'i was a dominant player in their forward pack and a guy who played origin every year. Hudson Young was much more in that picture in previous years. They had other players who were around that origin team as well. This year, I look at that pack, and there's no one who's going to miss games for Canberra through the origin period. They're going to be unaffected. Morgan Smithies will be there eating up every greedy little minute he can get, right? So if there's spare ones on offer, he's the one that's going to take them. So I look at Joey Tarpanay and I think, I'm not that into it. I don't think there's a lot of upside there. I think Corey Horsburgh will come back pretty soon as well. It's not appealing to me at all. But at the same time, it's pretty safe if you just want that safe option, right?
It's boring. I don't love it. It's okay. Like I understand why people get him. If you're a stats man, you look at his past stats, you go, "Wow, that's amazing." Look at the tear he can go on. But this year, it's just not there. And like you said, where's the minutes coming from? And Ricky Stewart, avoid. Unless you got a number 1 to 7 on your back, or the minutes are just so variable with Ricky Stewart. I just don't like that risk.
Yeah, and it's crazy because he's not boring as a player, right? So if he gets 60 minutes a game, he's so fun to watch. But I'm with you there. It's sort of 45 to 55 minutes for about a 50 average-ish. That sounds all right. But that 50 average is a 42, a 54, a 50. It's just not that convincing. So, yeah, I'm with you there. You're paying too much for that. Latrell Mitchell is the opposite of boring. You've got constant headlines. You've got a guy who might play Origin. You've got a guy who carries the weight of South Sydney on his back. A guy who scored 80 points last week with only 70 run meters. So he's just this absolute roller coaster. And I think that low base is going to come in to bite him at some point. But if you wanted a pod through this period and you could be certain that he wasn't going to play Origin, which I'm not, then look, 697K. Latrell Mitchell, Parramatta Eels this week. It could pop.
Yes, I agree. He's just one of those players where he'll be on 20 points with 10 minutes to go, and you're like, yes, I don't have him. Fantastic. And then next thing you look at it, you go, 75 points. Where'd they come from? Just one big play. I mean, like, he runs over a couple of people, runs 50 meters, scores a try, and that's it. And he's just capable of doing that at any point in time. So he's not a bad buy this price range. Like you said, definitely a great pod if you have the balls to kind of get onto him.
Be brave, man. It's big. It's a big dice roll. Because if he's
Yeah.
playing Origin, I would say he doesn't back up much at all. So I think he's a disaster buy if he plays Origin. But if he doesn't, yeah, decent shout. Let's roll into some pods here next. So get into these poddy boys, and these the pods and the buys aren't that different this week. There's a lot of the buys are kind of pods, a lot of the pods are kind of buys. Isaac Tungo is an interesting one. So 565k. It's an interesting price point. It's pretty affordable for a guy like him, a guy who people have paid 700k before. How much do you think the Nathan Cleary effect impacts him versus, say, having someone like Cole or someone else in the team?
I think the impact's pretty big. We can see that Penrith just on the same team. And Cole is a drop off from Schneider's not an amazing player, but he's experienced, and a Cole is a massive drop off, I think. So not having that experience there, etc., is quite detrimental. But that price isn't it tasty? Like 565 for Tago. Like we know what he can do. And I look at it going, that's interesting. And that would be a great pot if you get him before he scores an 80, 90, whatever it is. But, that loss against the Warriors shows they're a little bit vulnerable at the moment. They go into Origin, they're going to lose a few, potentially Yao, Edwards, etc. So I don't love at this point, but definitely want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, see, I think it's the name, right? So I'm looking at his numbers right now, by the way. He was at 700k plus for 5 weeks until about 4 weeks ago. So like the price you're getting, it is such a big discount. Like it's 150k off the prices on the tin, right? So that's a massive discount. The other thing I think about here is, look, the immediate upside is a little bit dicey. You've got a Sharks game this week, and you've got a 54-point break even, where he could potentially get shut down in that game. But the idea here is you pay sort of mid 500s for a guy who's potentially a keeper. That's the appeal. But then at the same time, look at your center spot, right? So if you have Ethan Strange already, I've got Herbie Farmworth, people have Cronulla players like Ero. You can only play 2 centers for round 13. So again, if he can't be used in round 13, he's actually of no value. But worth keeping on. Big pod. Nice op there. Did you get on Ryan Madison, or are you someone who steered clear?
I really wanted him. I've been eyeing him off for a long time, and I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. So I haven't got him. I am still looking at him. I'm very interested to see what happens with Trent Barrett taking over. Because at that price, dual position, Hop could potentially off to Origin, so Madison could get some middle minutes as well as the age. He's a very, very interesting proposition, but I just don't know what Barrett's going to do. So I'm still watching, and he's definitely one that I'm very keen on.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, Cardi's on the bench. Cardi's on the watch list as well. I don't mind it, right? So Hopgood should play Origin. Theoretically, I would assume he plays Origin. Madison, look, the Eels buys aren't crazy good. If the Eels had A1 buys, if the Eels had the Dolphins buys, I'd go buy Madison tomorrow. But with the buys the Eels have, I mean, 531k, it's a pretty good price. It could be anything though this week. So maybe wait a week and see. It's hard because that's not great advice if you need a middle right now. But I reckon my advice would be wait a week and see. The break even isn't crazy good. You can afford to do that. Jerome Luai is another one that's a bit of a wait a week option too. So we talked about Jerome Luai and Cody Walker as our 2 pods of the week last week, and Cody Walker won that duel. But the reason he's not on this list is because he has the buy in round 13, whereas theoretically Luai could play round 13. Now the downside there is he's probably still in the Origin frame. I can't imagine they pick him personally, especially with the lack of 7s that we have available right now. But he's still in that picture. Rob, if you were guaranteed that he wouldn't play Origin at 515k, bit of a period where he's carrying a guy like Cole, are you interested at all?
I'm just not a big Jerome Luai fan in real footy or for fantasy. I've just never really kind of looked at him as a fantasy relevant player. And it's a very valid question with Cole. Obviously, he's the senior person in the team. He should take more control in general play, etc. But I know. I'd rather Cody Walker. I think. I just feel like, but then that Cody Walker thing is muddied a bit with Jack Whiten coming in on board. So I don't know. Do I? I'm not a fan. I could be completely wrong here, but it's just not someone that I look at.
Yeah, it's a short window. Cody, I worry about a bit too because Latrell came in. He kicked for about 250 meters last week. So those keep meters with Dion, who wasn't kicking the ball at all, are starting to fade away a bit, especially with White coming in as well. So I'm probably a bit less keen on Cody Walker now too. Scotty Sorensen's the next one. Look, 578k. This one's pretty straightforward. He's a middle, an edge. He's a guy who's a very attractive fantasy scorer. He's in a good Penrith side, admittedly a bit under strength right now. And you're getting a bit of a discount on him. The other thing is that Luke Garner is completely out of the roster as well. So you got no risk of him coming on. The only risk is that Lindsay Smith potentially comes on at the edge, which it totally could happen. He played there a bunch earlier in the year and he could easily slip into that spot. But I think Scotty Sorensen, in my mind, I'm going to look at him for a week. And if he looks good next week, I'll move Ruben Cotter to someone like him at that time. So Cotter's at like 730k. Happy to give him one more week, but that'll be a nice little moneymaker. And then Halem Lukey, 441k. He's at the Cowboys as well. Look, this guy's talent is not questionable, but the minutes have been pretty good. You also know that Nanai almost certainly plays Origin. So in round 13, it means that you'll have Lukey for potentially 80 minutes, and Finifuyaki will move to that other edge. What would I have to do to convince you to buy Lukey at this time, Rob?
Every time I see his name, I feel like this rocking back and forth because I've bought him like 3 times, and every time he gets injured the next week. Like he's
as soon as he gets popular, bro.
He's so
as soon as he
injury
gets
prone.
5% ownership, bang, go.
Oh, he's just so injury prone, and it's just like sticking a fork in your eye. Like you feel like you shouldn't do it, but like it's really everything says buy, but in your brain you're thinking don't do it,
freak.
don't
so
do
good.
it. Yeah, he's so good, and that price is so cheap, right? But I just can't do it. I don't know. I'll probably do it again. I bought cheese again this year, right? For example, burnt me again. So I'm just a sucker for punishment. So I'll probably at some point pick up Lukey, I'd say.
I'm sorry, I just can't get past you saying buying Lukey is like sticking a fork in your eye.
Yeah. Painful.
It's so true as well. But he is so good, and you watch him, right? You have that 1 week where everything comes together and he scores 2 tries, and one of them is like a 70-meter try, and you go, "Yeah, I was right. I was real smart."
Yeah.
And the next week, you just cop.
Next week is lying on the ground, and then gone for 8 weeks. So I don't know.
On your boy Cheese, by the way, he's at 475k. He has a 60-point break even this week.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you got to go buy him, but Connor Watson obviously has picked up that injury as well. He's played 22 and 36 minutes the last 2 weeks. Surely at some point there's a price where he becomes a buy for us.
Get another fork and stick it in my other eye. I just
bang.
I sold him 2 weeks ago when he got out last minute, and I panic sold him to Fainu, I think.
Good move.
And it's been good, but I feel like exactly like you said, he's just at a price point now where it's nearly too hard to ignore. Like it's dual position, hooker mid, plays for a pretty good side, but he's just so bad at fantasy points and missing tackles all the time, and minutes aren't there. So does he just stay around that price point? Do you mean like it's just
yeah?
So
Sandon's on the bench too.
Yeah,
they've gone right in. Yeah, mate. Yeah. I like the fork in your eye analogy though. That's pretty on point for what it feels like to own those guys. So I'll go again with Lukey. I don't know if I can do it for Brandon Smith. It was too hurtful last time. But middle at the same time is so bad that maybe it lowers that position to a point where he's kind of attractive. Yeah. I don't know. Let's go to the holds or sells, right? So these guys are pretty dicey. And look, there's a few guys who have been on here a few times. Kai Pierce-Paul first. Look, I'm just going to throw a few things in here, and I'll throw to you because you're a Newcastle man, so you got a lot more commentary for him as well. But for the minutes at Newcastle, it's pretty dicey because you look at that team and you go, Tyson Frizzell, great back row, Dylan Lucas in fantastic form, and Kai Pierce-Paul, good player as well. All three in their own right could play 80 minutes in that edge back row spot. What they've done last week is they've gone, you know what, pop to the bench, Tyson Frizzell. KPP, you can start, and Frizzell, you're going to play as a bench prop. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, that's going to impact Jaden Brayley, right? Because then I thought, oh, well, like Frizzell's going to take some of those lock minutes. It'll mean that Phoenix Crossman comes on at hooker, right? Which he did a little bit, but Brayley got 56 in 70 minutes. So me benching him was a stupid move. But yeah, I like the Newcastle forward pack though. They change it every sort of couple of weeks in terms of configuration. For me though, Kai Pierce-Paul is a hold. Are you in the same camp?
100%. I'm in an Ring all week about selling him, but I just don't want to overthink it. I really don't know what Adam O'Brien thinks. I don't want to guess. So I just played it as like a straight bat. As soon as I saw you were starting, I swapped out someone else. I think it was Waddell or someone else in for KPP basically, and said, look, he's starting. Just give him a crack. And so whilst he's starting or around the side, I'll keep him until I see a consistent trend. But apart from that, there's no point overthinking it. It is what it is. So yeah.
Dude, these coaches this year, Adam O'Brien, like you got the teamless Trent Robinson came out with is unhinged as well. He's gone Radley to the edge, Nafu White come in. Let's talk about Nat Butcher right now because he's at the bottom there. That Roosters team list is insane. It's insane. Like I was chatting to some guys last week about this actually, and sort of saying like I reckon there's a risk to Nat Butcher as a buy that that Radley will play some minutes on the edge. I thought it'd be like 15 minutes in a game, right? I thought it'd just be a small stint. He's being named to start there now, which is unhinged because Nat Butcher. We were talking about this pre-game, but like he's been scoring tries. He's solid enough on defense. He's an origin back rower, but I don't understand why you would drop him.
It's crazy. He's that guy that every team needs, that solid worker. He's not a showboat pony. He just works hard, and he's in there every single week. He's a 7 out of 10 every single week. Yeah. And you need those guys. But I don't know what he's done. Has he slept with Trent Robinson's wife? Like, what's he done? Like, it's crazy. Like, I just don't get it.
Maybe Robbo pulls it from a hat every week. So he goes, all right, here's the guy I'm going to screw over this week. Oh, it's Terrell May again? Okay, yeah, cool. Oh, he's still owned by people? Yeah, Terrell May again. This week it's Nat Butcher. At some point, like Gus Crichton, we talk about him and his form this year. He wasn't even in the 17 to start the year. Connor Watson, exact same thing, wasn't even in the 17. Like, there is no method to the madness at this stage. It is just totally unhinged football.
He's become Ricky Stewart 2.0, isn't he? Like, it's just can't trust him at all.
That's harsh, man.
Sorry, Robbo. Sorry, that's really bad. Sorry.
Yeah, no Ricky, mate. he's going the wrong way. All right. So Nat Butcher. By the way, the verdict for me, it's a hold. I think round 13 is good. Gus Crichton probably plays Origin. Hold him. You get that round 13 game. Think about it again after that. That's my answer.
Agreed.
Cool, man. Brendan Pukakura, mate. I sold him last week. It didn't actually work for me because I sold him and I bought Samuel Alfino with the money. Yeah. So, he actually scored better than Fino. 36 points with his try. I still look at that though, and I go, that was a 15-point try. So you got 21 out of him without the try. It's probably a PB for him in terms of base stats this year, but it's disgusting, isn't it?
You know what's funny? When he scored the try, it was about 25 or 30 points after 10 minutes, whatever it was. I texted my mate that sold him. I was bragging, did you sell Pukakura? And then he was 2 points better off. Like, it was hilarious. And I'm like, oh my God, egg on face. It was terrible. So I really want to sell him this week. I'll see if I can. I can't stand the look of him. Like, I just can't stand it. And the worst thing is, I never held on to him. When he got injured, I sold him. As soon as he came back, I bought him back.
So which one of the games was the one that convinced you to buy him? It was
80-minute edge forward for the Brisbane Broncos. How bad can it be? And it's bad. It's bad. So
it's so bad. Yeah, that 8-point game. Did you see the one? So he got 11 right? And he downdated to 8 at the last minute.
If you don't laugh, you cry. Like, seriously.
Oh,
Yeah.
mate, that was the week too. I actually benched him that week. I left him on a roster. And then Nico Hines pulling out late meant that he subbed into my team.
Tragic. What a terrible year. Right?
You lose your captain, and then you also get that. Yeah, no, Pierre Kura. Look. Let's be objective. Look, Pierre Kura is going to replace Talau. By the way, I think he's well on his way because Talau is actually not terrible
He's all right.
anymore for fantasy, and Pierre Kura is special. But I still think there's a case to hold him because he was a 40-point back rower last year, and surely he gets back to it.
What's happened? I don't know. What's happened? It's just weird.
Missing a lot of tackles. He's making a lot less tackles than last year. So I think he went from, I looked at this like 3 weeks ago, but he went from like 24 tackles a game to 17 tackles a game. I think it's even less now. Missed tackles stayed about the same. The run meters were down. The attacking stats relatively similar, but just not a lot of work rate right now. So yeah, if you want to sell Pierre Kura, I think it's a safe call. We got a lot of guys in the cash cows section as well that are interesting, but most of them don't play round 13, so it's questionable. Ruben Cotter, Harry Grant are in similar camps here, right? Both have Origin coming up. I'm going to be firm on Ruben Cotter, and I think you agree with me on this. He's a sell for Origin. He's done us a massive favor. He's come out, he's got some big scores, he's made us some cash, he's peaked at the right time. But through the Origin period, when you look at Ruben Cotter, there's a history of him playing terrible minutes the games after Origin, especially under Todd Payton. So if you hold him, I guarantee you get a couple of games where he scored worse than that 30 you saw on the weekend. In fact, you'll be begging for that 30 in those particular weeks. Harry Grant's a bit of a different shout, though. The Storm, I mean, they're up the top of the table, right? So they don't necessarily need to push him. But 707K, it's very cheap. And they're a team that currently Tyron Wishart, he's a starting half for them. So they don't really have that backup hooker right now. Do you think he's effective through the Origin period, effective enough to hold? Or do you think the options at hooker are just too great that you can't carry him?
I think you can carry him. Like he's the captain. You know, our worst will probably play like a 60-minute, 70-minute games. Like get a bit of a rest. But I can't see them resting him throughout the period because without Munster, they're a little bit weak. They need a bit more leadership around the field. So I think they definitely need to play him, but at reduced minutes. But it's good enough to hold. Like he's still doing all right. So, but completely agree with Ruben Cotter. He just plays too hard for the Queenslanders, and he's smashed. And then so if he does back up, that's another question. Does he back up? But when he does, he's just knackered. He just plays reduced minutes, not as effective. So 100% sell.
It's the worst bit because he does back up. He does back up, but he just doesn't play any minutes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sell on Ruben Cotter. A couple of options to buy, though. Buy on TBC. That's not actually a thing you buy. It's an app. So, Rob, have you played TBC yet, by the way?
No. Right. I haven't.
This is working out really well because we had a TBC ad in the middle last week, too. So I'm just going to explain how it works. So basically, it's a new game. You download the app. I've got a link in the description here. And what happens is while you're watching the game, you can chat with different people, but also you make predictions about the game. So you can make a call and one prediction I used a couple of weeks ago that absolutely nailed it, and I reposted, was I was calling it Trey Fuller to score a try in the 10 minutes before halftime, right? Because he was looking crafty. He burst through. He scored that beautiful try. You get a bunch of points if you make a prediction that's unpopular. So that one, most people voted against it. So I got heaps of points for that. So yeah, TBC Live, awesome game. Just probably the only predictions game that I know of actually in Australian sports. So really on the come up, guys. Check it out. Let me know in the comments if you do download it, and I'll love you forever. All right, let's jump into the cheapies. So this is an interesting list, and you know what, man? Like I actually wasn't expecting it this week, but we've had an influx of cheap options who have a little bit of fantasy pedigree. I'm going to throw it to you first, man. Pick anyone from this list. Who jumps out at you?
A lot of J's, isn't it? J. But Josiah Pahulu, have I pronounced that correctly? He's starting this week. without another J. So another JJ, Jermaine Jolloff, he's out. So he's starting. He looks very attractive. I
Mm,
just don't know if he's going to be that start for 30 minutes kind of guy and then someone else takes over for the rest of
yeah.
the time. So he's a bit iffy. The other one I really like is Wishart with Munster out. But Jerome Hughes is back. So
Mm.
he'll probably be a bit more of a passenger. Um, but his scores are actually amazing without when he's a halfback and doing the kicking, etc. But with Jerome Hughes back, I'm not so sure at that price point. He's a iffy one.
If they had amazing buys, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But they got the buy around 13. I don't know. I mean, he's going to be effective through the origin period regardless. Um, I'm
Yeah,
happy. I think I'm going to let this one sail by. I'm on Armstrong. I'm on Weeks. I got on those guys pretty early. I just don't think I have more space for more of these guys. So I'm with you there on Wishart. For Hulu, it's a tough one because there are other guys that we're going to talk about in that forward pack as well. But for Pahulu, I don't know if Jolloff's only out for 2 weeks. I still don't have confirmation on that injury. But if he's out for 2 weeks, then there's nothing to talk about. If it's 8 weeks, then this is probably worth a gamble. To be transparent though, with most of these guys, like none of them are playing round 13. So I would, unless you really want to trade this week, probably wait on all of them. I'll throw Jacob Laban in next because he had a big game on the weekend. He scored about 48 points. It was about 48 in 52 minutes or something like that. So he's showing a bit of fantasy pedigree at 248k as well. It's a good price point. And the Warriors have a forward pack that is a little older. So as much as none of them are playing Origin, I expect a few guys to get rests here and there. But at the same time, again, doesn't play round 13. You got Tohu Harris coming back. There's no guarantee he keeps a spot. And there's no guarantee, even in major buy rounds, that he plays the game. So can't be convinced on him. Whereas Karapani, Josiah Karapani, if the Broncos didn't have terrible buys, again, we're not getting helped by the schedules here. Broncos' schedule is disastrous. If they had a good run, I'd be saying go buy Josiah Karapani because he looked pretty good in the game he played. And the Broncos feed those guys, and there's plenty of ways for him to get in. Right? Selwyn Cobbo plays a bunch of Origin. Tony Staggs now has a rib issue, which they don't heal quickly. Reece Walsh plays Origin. Like, there's a lot of ways for him to get into the team, and he's probably my pick in this group. But at the same time, again, we don't need the outside backs right now. We've got so many cheapies there already.
yeah. It's just bad timing, isn't it? Where were these guys 4 weeks, 6 weeks ago, right? When we were desperate for cheapies, and now they've
Weren't
all
we
come.
desperate? Yeah, we were all
Yeah,
buying like Chevy Stewart, and like,
oh, don't talk about it.
we were thirsty for it. Yeah, Matamua. All right, so Matamua is kind of funny to me. Like I look at Matamua and I just think you see him at 13, and then beneath him on the bench, you see three other guys who have started at lock for the Tigers as these monsters.
Musical chairs, right?
He's like, but 257k, it's such a good price point. I was chatting to Paulie, who's a Tigers fan. He was saying that he's more of a ball player, right? Which is
Oh,
more
really?
the style they're trying to play.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe he keeps that spot, but then what's everyone else going to do? What's Seyfarth going to do? What's Fanua Poli going to do? Are they props now? Like there are no edge minutes to go around. Like Seyfarth will come on and ruin someone's day, right?
Hmm.
And it's probably Matamua, isn't it?
Just watch, I guess. 257k. There's no need to jump on straight away. If he's any good, if he keeps that position, then reassess it at that point in time. But there's no point risking it now at this point in time.
Yeah. Does he pass the eye test? I think that's a good answer to most of these guys, to be honest. Because even for Pahulu, like if he passes the eye test, he'll earn his minutes. So it's a good shout, man. Watch list. And these guys are kind of fun. We could take turns on these guys, but I'll jump in first with Damien Cook. It's just old school pedigree. Like we talk about this all the time. The only reason he's on the watch list and not on the buy list right now for mine is the schedule, right? So round 13 buy, couldn't do it right now. At the same time, I'll tell you what, Parramatta have been enjoying letting hookers walk in easy tries and do whatever they want because fucking Parramatta just oh
Yeah.
oh mate, I'm fuming about Parramatta right now. But yeah, look, Damien Cook, he's He's probably going to go off this week, to be honest. But you got the bye next, so I don't think you can buy him right now. He's a good shout though. He could easily be the top hooker in fantasy by the end of the year.
See, I've only got one hooker, which is Brayley. So this week I'm after hooker. So I don't care if he doesn't play next week because I've already got Brayley, right? So I am.
That's a big spot.
Yeah,
Wow.
He's definitely someone I'm looking at. I just don't know about the minutes. I feel like last week he was brought off around a 70-minute mark, so he's still not getting the 80 minutes. 70 minutes is okay, but it's just I don't have the greatest of confidence he'll go to 80 on a regular basis. But I'm still eyeing him off. Like you said, he's got that pedigree. We all know what he can do. Showed a glimpse of it last week. He scored a try. Showed a bit of speed again. So it's still there. It's still there. So we'll see.
That's dicey, man. Who else are you looking at? A hooker?
Potentially someone that's mid dual with low or high 400s, and his name is.
All right, well, we'll save that for later, man. We'll save that for the last one. And you want to stick around for that, guys. I'll throw Luciano Leilua in next. And look, 611K, it's not a great price point, but he comes off the bench this week. He's one of those guys where I could see him playing smaller minutes, working his way up, and then getting into those big minutes, and hopefully getting cheap in the process. So for me to be looking at buying Luciano, it's probably at like a 490K price point. In the 500s, I get less interested. At 600K, I'm not touching it at all. It's really just if he gets cheap kind of scenario. And then for Greg Marzu, mate, when did you get on him? Because I know you've been on him for a little bit.
I got him 2 weeks ago. So when he scored his 49, his first try for a while, I got him onto it that week, which is pretty nice.
Before that?
No, on that week. For that week.
Or after that?
I got these points for that week. So
mate. So you're the lucky charm, pretty much. You got them now.
Last week he got 35. Wasn't great, but all base stats. So I was quite encouraged what I saw. I feel like he's taking the ball up a bit more vigor. He's getting a few more tackle breaks. It's back to what he was before. So I'm still pretty high on him. Unfortunately, I bought him instead of Armstrong. So that's the downside.
Yeah. Right. See, I was high on him too, but Armstrong was just at such a nice price point. I still think Marzu could be a buy after round 12 buy. Like again, like, do we need a wing fullback? 464K, it's a good price. I think he's worth benching even because you get that 35 game. Like realistically, if he's playing decent enough footy, he shouldn't be scoring below 30. So you get between 30 and he can score 80 in random weeks, right? So I think it's a good shot.
Yeah, he takes the ball back so much. Like he gets about at least 180 run meters each game, minimum like 3 or 4 tackle breaks. And there's your 30 right there.
9 or 10, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Nah, he's a weapon, man. Brycey Cartwright, I'll throw in here. 563K, got a good score last week. Still has a break even in the 50s. He's just one to watch in terms of that price. And for mine, I don't know. I don't think he's ever going to be that keeper option. It's just the rib issue has really sort of slowed him down. But let's see what happens in terms of the rotations with Barrett coming in. Obviously, Barrett's a big brain coach. Maybe he will let Cartwright play 80 minutes. Maybe that's on the agenda. I don't know. That's why he's on the watch list. So
we'll see.
Be a shout. Jackie Whiten, does that spark up anything in you at all? Going into the halves? Available at center.
It's so cheap, isn't it? 408K. Wow.
Is that cheap?
I remember when he was at Raiders, he was a 45 point guy. If he can hit those
average at
46
6.
really well.
That's his career average at 6. Admittedly, it includes Dally M seasons. He's not that player anymore, right? So let's call it a 40 average.
Yeah. I just don't have any confidence at the moment. But like I said, reason why he's on the watch list is, we can wait a couple of weeks and see what happens with that combination, and then we'll go from there. But there's no rush to get him. So,
and again, it's a cheap center. How many cheap centers do we want to get? Right? Like at the same time, the last time I ignored a cheap center, I was so high on Bradman Best, and I didn't do it. And look at how good he was. So, yeah.
But now he's injured. So to every cloud, there's a silver lining.
Oh, they all get injured. for that 100-point game, you take that. And I know
Yeah.
you've got a guy you want to talk about as well. And oh, there he is.
I've got a quiz. Does anyone know who that is without me telling them?
Oh, come on. Come on. I talk about him so much. They have to know.
This man, Aaron Clark from the Titans, dual hooker mid, around the high 400s. I'm really keen on him this week. It depends on how long Jolov's out for. Um, I just think those minutes have to go around somewhere, and he could be the recipient of it. So a couple of years ago, when he was coming off the bench playing that 55-minute role, middle, he was amazing. He was averaging, I don't have the exact stats for me, but I'm guessing he was averaging in the 50s. And he was excellent. So he fits exactly what I want for what I need at the moment, a hooker mid. He can fill a lot of gaps during the bye rounds. So I'm pretty keen on him. But obviously, it comes with risk. I don't know what the minutes he's going to get. It's got somewhere between 40 to 55 minutes, I'm guessing. But yeah, we'll see.
Man, he's a pure PPM guy as well. Like when he plays big minutes, it's a 55 points in 55 minutes kind of average.
Yeah.
So if he ever gets that again, you'll look like a genius, man. I like the upside of this pick, right? So there's different kinds of risky players. I think everyone looks at like a Dom Young and they go, oh, that's risky. It's not that risky, right? He's a guy who's got a certain role on a team. He's going to score a certain number of tries. Week to week, it's kind of bouncy, but it's pretty safe in terms of what you can forecast there. A guy like Aaron Clark to a serious fantasy coach is actually more of a gamble because you're betting on a role in a team that is not guaranteed, and you're betting on guys like Fodder Waker making Origin in spite of pretty average form right now. So it's a little bit of a different gamble. As much as he's not that crazy kind of up and down player, it's a pretty dynamic pick. If you go ahead with this, you're thinking about doing it this week? Is there anything you need to see from him this week, or from the Titans news-wise, or a length of time that Joel lifts out, or anything like that would really push you over the edge? Because I'm getting the feeling you want to do this and you don't really want to do Cook.
I will want to see Jolliffe out for 4+ weeks, somewhere quite long-termish. I feel like he's risky, but in terms of downside, even if he doesn't get the big minute role, I think his floor is around 35 points ish, which is not great. You're buying for what he's worth. So in a sense, you are losing a trade, but it's not a disaster. So that's the way I can look at the downside. And the upside, like you said, is if he gets some minutes, he's amazing. And he just fits so well into my buy schedule that maybe I'm not looking at the best kind of objective point of view, but he just fits so well. I just want him in there because I put him on my spreadsheet. All the holes are gone. I mean, and so yeah. But I want to see more news on Jollof before I do anything.
I mean, mid is desperate, man. Mid is seriously desperate. This is the thing with mid, right? So Morgan Smithies, right? The last sort of month of footy, I would have been thinking about selling him, but mid is so bad that you can't even think about it. A guy like Aaron Clark, like you'd be thinking, oh, it's pretty dicey. I'm not sure, but the fact that mid is so disastrous, and you have to get rid of guys like Carrigan and Cotter through this period, it makes Aaron Clark more attractive. Because I look at this and I go, all right, people are talking about Joey Tarpanay for $675K. And there's Aaron Clark for what's the price point? Like 460?
Yep, around there.
It is? Okay, cool, yeah. So there's a 215K price difference, right? For probably, I mean, if you were really conservative, probably 10 points of difference, right? So I would rather, if I had to buy one of these two, I'd go Aaron Clark over Joey Tarpanay. Because I think neither are true keepers at the end of the year. So, and Aaron Clark, yeah. So you might as well.
They're whole fields, right? They're there to kind of help you for the orange period, and then hopefully, if you're lucky, they've made their money, and then you can sell to someone at a later date. But that's their role. So I have no, under no illusions that he's a keeper. He's not, but he's going to help me through 13 to 19, and that's what I'm looking at.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, guys. Aaron Clark must have. Rob Fung just said that. Quote it to everyone, because Yeah, must have guaranteed 60-point average is what I was hearing before we started recording.
Wait for him to get 30 minutes this weekend.
Oh, I'll be watching closely, man. If he goes well, we'll definitely shout it out. If he doesn't go well, we won't mention it ever again. Look, thanks for coming on, though, man. Always good to have you on. Obviously, you're at a pretty good rank point this year as well. So, we're both in that fight for these top spots, and the bye period is going to be the rising point. So, we're in a good spot. Hopefully, you guys are in a good spot as well. Hopefully, you've enjoyed, and thanks for hopping on. Best of luck this week.